Imagine you're flying from Los Angeles to New York City. While taking off, if the pilot adjusts the heading by just 3.5 degrees south, you will land in Washington, D.C. instead of New York. At takeoff, this is just a small change. The nose of the plane moves only a few feet, but when this change is magnified across the entire United States, you will end up landing in a completely different city, about 230 miles away from your original destination. Small changes, carried out over a prolonged period, can lead to dramatically different results. This is true for all areas of life: health, relationships, personal finance, and even mental peace. However, this simple method contradicts how most people view their life goals. Think of the most common ways people aim for their big goals. Let's say saving $1 million, losing 100 pounds, or becoming a best-selling author. They set steep targets and try to achieve them through sheer willpower. They want to move the mountain using brute force. Remember the lofty goals we set every new year? According to Drive Research, only 9% of people stick to their New Year's resolution all year. Mere willpower alone can take us only so far. Saving aggressively for a few weeks doesn't help you become a millionaire. Hitting the gym for a few days won't show progress on the scale. Willpower tends to fade quickly. By mid-January, when the ink on their resolutions is barely dry, most people have already given up on their goals. But what if I told you there's a proven way of achieving life's goals, no matter how big they look, without straining your willpower? It's as simple as building small positive habits daily while gradually eliminating destructive ones. This is the core message of the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. The word atomic means an extremely small amount of something. A habit is a routine practice performed regularly. Your outcomes are a lagging measure of your atomic habits. Those tiny changes in the margin. Your net worth is a lagging measure of your saving and spending habits. Your weight is a lagging measure of your eating habits. Your knowledge is a lagging measure of your learning habits. You get what you repeat every day over a long period. If you want to predict where you'll end up in life, all you have to do is follow the curve of tiny gains or tiny losses. Are you spending less than you earn every month? Are you making it to the gym every week? Are you reading a few pages and learning something new every day? Tiny battles like these are the ones that will define your future self. But how do we build life-changing habits or eliminate the harmful ones? There lies the real challenge. So let's dive into this book and explore the step-by-step methods laid down by James Clear. And make sure to get your notepads ready, because we are going to get specific. Why tiny changes make a big difference. From 1908 until 2007, British riders had won just a single gold medal at the Olympic Games. They even performed worse in the cycling's biggest race, the Tour de France. In 110 years, no British cyclist had ever won the event. Their performance in top cycling competitions was so dismal that a leading bike manufacturer in Europe refused to sell bikes to the team. The company didn't want to get associated with a losing team and spoil the image. Then something magical happened. The fate of British cycling would take a dramatic turn in 2003. It was the year Dave Brailsford was appointed as the new performance director. During the 10 years from 2007 to 2017, British cyclists won 178 world championships and 66 Olympic or Paralympic gold medals, and they captured 5 Tour de France victories. The period is widely recognized as the most successful run in cycling history. But how did a team of ordinary athletes transform into world champions? Many would expect Brailsford to implement drastic changes in the way British cyclists practice, but this was not the case. What made Brailsford different from previous coaches was his relentless commitment to marginal gains. He focused on tiny margins of improvement rather than dramatic changes. He redesigned the bike seats to make them more comfortable, rubbed alcohol on tires for better grip, and arranged electronically heated shorts for the riders to maintain ideal muscle temperature. In addition, he used biofeedback sensors to monitor how each athlete responded to a particular workout. The team tested various fabrics in a wind tunnel, which had the outdoor riders switch to indoor racing suits to benefit from aerodynamics. Brailsford said, "If you broke down everything you could think of that goes into riding a bike and then improve on it 1%, you will get a significant increase when you put them all together. If you do the math, improving 1% daily will get you 37 times better by the end of the year. Imagine an investor earning 1% on their capital every day and reinvesting it back. After just a year, the investor will end up growing their capital by a whopping 37x. This is the power of tiny marginal change. Now imagine the kind of dramatic results we can achieve if we make small improvements in our daily habits. However, making small gradual changes counterintuitive for many. This is why most people obsess over setting ambitious goals. They tend to fail. What they lack is a simple system to achieve mighty goals. Forget about goals. Focus on systems. Imagine you're a basketball coach. It's natural for you to set a goal to win the championship. Now imagine for a moment that you are completely ignoring your goal to be the champion. Instead, you're focusing on what your team does at practice each and every day. Would you still get to win the trophy? James Clear seems to think that you would. Goals are about the results you want to achieve. Systems are about the processes that lead to those results. You cannot get results just by focusing on what you want to achieve without taking baby steps today and building upon it. So if you're an entrepreneur, your goal might to be build $1 million business. However, your goal will remain difficult if you don't have a system of testing business ideas, managing funds, hiring talent, and running marketing campaigns. Once you set a goal, leave it alone. Now focus on the system. Clear says you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. So if you find it difficult to change your habits, don't be hard on yourself. The problem is not you. You were probably following a faulty system. Building a system of atomic habits or small daily improvements will take you to your goals faster than you could ever imagine. Building a new habit or quitting one, however, has a deeper connection with your identity or your self-image. Your habits shape your identity and vice versa. Imagine two people trying to quit smoking. When a friend of theirs offers a cigarette, the first person says, "No thank you, I'm trying to quit." The second person declines by saying, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." There's a small difference between the ways they decline the offer. The first person still believes that they're a smoker and trying to resist smoking. Internally, the person has established the identity of being a smoker. On the other hand, the second person believes they are not a smoker. However, smoking probably was a part of their former self, but they no longer identify as somebody who smokes. According to James, the second person is most likely to succeed in quitting smoking. But why is this the case? The book Atomic Habits explains that change can occur on 3 levels. The first layer is changing your outcomes. At this level, people are concerned with the final results like losing 50 pounds of weight, reading 50 books a year, or saving $1 million. The second layer is changing your processes. This level involves changing habits, practices, and systems. This is the level at which Dave Brailsford worked on improving the performance of the British cycling team. Then comes the third and the deepest level of initiating change. It involves changing your identity. Research has shown that once a person identifies themselves in a certain way, their actions follow that identity. For example, people who identify as being a voter are more likely to vote than others who simply want to vote. So if you want to read 50 books in a year, first identify as a reader. If you want to run a marathon, first become a runner in your mind. If you want to accumulate $1 million, think of yourself as a great investor. Identity and habit have a two-way relationship. So your actions help in building your identity. Each action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Each time you write a page, you are a writer. Each time you save and invest, you are an investor. Each time you start a workout, you are an athlete. Build better habits in 4 simple steps. Imagine putting a cat inside a box with a lever. Pressing the lever opens a door on the side of the box, allowing the cat to escape. Most cats would like to escape as soon as they are placed inside the box. They would poke their noses around into corners, stick their paws through openings, and claw at loose objects. After a few minutes of exploration, the cats would happen to press their magical lever. The door would open and they would escape. Now, when this experiment is repeated multiple times, an interesting thing happens. The cats need less and less time to find out how to escape from the box. Psychologist Edward Thorndike conducted this experiment back in 1898. His similar experiments with cats, dogs, and chickens laid the foundation for our understanding of habits forming. He observed that behaviors followed by satisfying consequences tend to be repeated, and those that produce unpleasant consequences are less likely to be repeated. The process of habit formation happens through the same system of trial and error. However, we encounter a new situation in life. Our brain has to make a decision. How do I respond to this? The first time we come across a problem, we are not sure how to solve it. Like Thorndike's cat, we are just trying out things to see what works. This is the feedback loop behind all human behavior. Try, fail, learn, and try differently. And eventually, when something works, we get what we desire. The trial that leads to the results gets repeated and new habits are formed. As behavioral scientist Jason Hira writes, habits are simply reliable solutions to recurring problems in our environment. Building on this knowledge, we can divide the process of habit formation into 4 simple steps: cue, craving, response, and reward. Suppose you're writing a blog post and your phone buzzes with a new notification. This is a cue. Now, the notification sound creates a craving within you to check your phone and read some messages. So you respond to this craving by grabbing your phone and reading the text. This action leads to a reward, which is the satisfaction you derive from checking your texts. The cue triggers a craving, which motivates a response, which provides a reward, which satisfies the craving, and ultimately becomes associated with cue. Together, these 4 steps form a neurological feedback loop: cue, craving, response, reward. This cycle, known as the habit loop, creates automatic habits. Once we are aware of this habit loop, building new habits become much easier. It involves 4 basic laws. The first law, make it obvious. If you want to build new habits, you first need to make it obvious. This means making a conscious and clear choice. Our habits are mostly non-conscious and automatic. If you look at your current habits, they are deeply rooted in your life. Every time somebody smokes, they're not making a conscious choice. They automatically reach out for cigarettes when there's a cue like stress. So the first step to changing bad habits is to be on lookout for them. As the psychologist Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. An effective way to become aware of your current habits is to create a habit scorecard. Simply list down all your habits, things you do throughout the day. These include everything from turning off the alarm, taking a cold shower, and flossing teeth, to spending time on social media, watching adult content, napping in the afternoon, biting nails, journaling, and meditating. Now, mark each habit as positive or negative. Depends on your goal. So if you're trying to lose weight, mark eating out as a negative habit. On the other hand, for someone trying to be an author, journaling is a positive habit. Once you are aware of your current habits and their type, your habit scorecard is ready. This is your first baby step towards taking control of your habits. Now let's move toward implementation. Implementation, intention. In 2001, researchers in Great Britain began working with 248 people to build better exercise habits over 2 weeks. They were divided into 3 groups. The first group was simply asked to track how often they exercised. The second group was asked not only to track their workouts, but also to read about the benefits of exercising. People in the third group were given the same instructions as the second group, but they were given an additional task. They had to formulate a plan specifically mentioning when and where they would exercise in the next week. They were asked to write something like, during the next week, I will carry out at least 20 minutes of vigorous exercise on every alternate day at 7 a.m. in the nearby gym. Which group do you think had the highest success rate in working out regularly? Let's look at the results. In the first and second group, 35 to 38% of people exercised at least once a week. However, the success rate of the third group was 91% more than double that of the first two groups. The reason behind their dramatic difference in success rate was the last instruction. Researchers call it implementation intention. It is a plan specifying when and where you're going to carry out a habit. Simply saying, I will meditate every day without a concrete plan can set you up for failure if you want to meditate regularly. Instead, have a clear implementation intention. It should read something like, I will meditate for 5 minutes every day at 7:30 a.m. in my study room. Implementation intention has a more creative variety in which one habit is stacked above another. Habit stacking. Listen to these implementation intentions. After I pour my cup of coffee each morning, I will meditate for 1 minute. After I take off my shoes, I will immediately change into my work clothes and start working out. After I hit my bed every night, I will spend 5 minutes reflecting on 3 wins of the day. What's happening here is that rather than pairing our new habit with particular time and location, we pair it with a current habit. Drinking coffee is a current habit and we are stacking meditation on it. Taking off work shoes is a current habit to which we are attaching workouts. Going to bed is a current habit. We are stacking gratitude and mindfulness on it. The practice is called habit stacking. The formula is simple. After this, I will do that. You can redesign your entire day by stacking one habit above another. For example, your morning routine can look like this. Step 1. After I pour my cup of coffee, I will meditate for 60 seconds. Step 2. After I meditate for 60 seconds, I will write down my to-do list for the day. Step 3. After I write my to-do list for the day, I will immediately begin my first task. And so on and so on. This way, a system is built and we don't have to rely on motivation. Motivation is overrated. Environment matters more. Anne Thorndike, a primary care physician at Massachusetts General Hospital, took up an interesting challenge. She wanted to improve the eating habits of thousands of hospital staff and visitors without interacting with them or motivating them to eat better. So what did she do? She started redesigning the environment. Earlier, the refrigerators next to the cash registers in the cafe were filled with only soda. Anne placed more water bottles in these refrigerators. Additionally, her team placed baskets of bottled water next to food stations throughout the room. Soda was still in the refrigerators, but water was more available in all locations. Over the next 3 months, the number of soda sales at the hospital dropped by 11.4%. Meanwhile, sales of bottled water increased by 25.8%. This experiment highlights why environment is often more important than motivation. You may be motivated to work, but if you live miles away from any gym or hang out with people who don't prioritize working out, your motivation will lose its strength. It's easy not to practice the guitar when it's tucked away in the closet. It's easy to not read a book when the bookshelf is in the corner of the guest room. It's easy to not take your vitamins when they're out of sight. The idea is to redesign your environment in a way that is conducive to your desired habits. Want to practice guitar more frequently? Place your guitar stand in the middle of the living room. Don't want to miss your vitamins each night? Put your pill bottle directly next to the faucet of the bathroom counter. As the first law of forming habits is to make it obvious, we need to inverse this law when it comes to getting rid of a habit. So to eliminate a bad habit, we simply need to lower our exposure by redesigning the environment. For instance, if you don't want to get distracted by social media, keep your phone in another room while you are working. The second law, make it attractive. Ronan Byrne enjoyed watching Netflix, but he also knew that he should be exercising more often than not. Being an engineering student, he came up with a smart solution to a dilemma. Putting his engineering skills to use, Byrne hacked the stationary bike and connected it to his laptop and television. Then he wrote a program that would allow Netflix to run only if he was cycling at certain speeds. If he slowed down for too long, whatever show he was watching would pause until he started pedaling again. He found the second law of building habits: make it attractive. Now, suddenly exercising became more attractive because it allowed him to watch more of his favorite shows. When a new habit is attractive, you find it more rewarding to get started and keep the ball rolling. The inversion of the second law is also true. This means making a habit unattractive will help you get rid of it. For instance, if you want to stop watching TV late into the night, remove the batteries from the remote control and keep them in another room, and that will help. This way, next time you sit on your couch, watching TV will be less convenient. We need to make our habits attractive because it is the expectation of a rewarding experience that motivates us to act in the first place. This is where a strategy known as temptation bundling comes into play. When the American Broadcasting Company, more commonly known as ABC, launched its Thursday night television lineup for the 2014-2015 season, they would air 3 shows: Grey's Anatomy, Scandal, and How to Get Away with Murder. They branded it TGIT on ABC, for thank God it's Thursday. They even encourage viewers to make popcorn, drink red wine, and enjoy the evening. This is a classic case of temptation bundling. It works by linking an action you want to do with an action you need to do. In the case of ABC, they were bundling things they needed viewers to do, which was watch their shows with activities like relaxing and drinking wine that viewers already wanted to do. Over time, people began to connect watching ABC with feeling relaxed and entertained. In Burns' case, he bundled watching Netflix with riding his stationary bike. The first thing was something he wanted to do, while the second thing was something he needed to do. So for him, working out got connected with being able to watch Netflix. So why does temptation bundling work in forming a habit? There is a psychological theory behind temptation bundling. It's called Premack's principle. In practical terms, it implies that you can make hard habits more attractive if you can learn to associate them with a positive experience. So if you want to check Facebook, but you need to exercise more, create the following temptation bundle. Step 1, I will pull out my phone, I will do 20 push-ups. Step 2, after I do 20 push-ups, I will check Facebook for 10 minutes. And if you find it hard to get started investing, bundle it with rewarding yourself. How about getting to visit your favorite restaurant every time you invest $100? The third law, make it easy. On the first day of a new session, Jerry Yulesman, a professor at University of Florida, divided his film photography students into 2 groups. He told the first group, called the quantity group, that they would be graded solely on the number of photos they took. 100 photos would rate an A, 90 photos a B, 80 photos a C, and so on and so forth. The second group was called the quality group. However, they were given a much simpler task. They would only need to produce a single photo during the semester to get an A. It had to be a nearly perfect image in terms of quality. Given that, which group do you think came up with the most excellent photographs? To everybody's surprise, it was the quantity group that produced the best photos. During the semester, these students were busy taking photos, experimenting with composition and lighting, testing out various methods in the darkroom, and learning from their mistakes. In the process of creating hundreds of photos, they honed their skills. Meanwhile, the quality group sat around speculating about perfection. In the end, they had little to show for their efforts other than unverified theories and one mediocre photo. It's easy to get bogged down trying to find optimal plans for change. The fastest way to lose weight, the best program to build muscle, the perfect idea for a side hustle. We are so focused on figuring out the best approach that we never get around to taking action. This is the difference between being in motion and taking action. When you're in motion, you are planning. These are all good things, but they don't produce a result. Action, on the other hand, is the type of behavior that will deliver an outcome. When you outline 20 ideas for an article, that's motion. When you actually sit down to write an article, that's action. When you don't need to map out every feature of a new habit, you just need to practice it. Walk slowly, and you will reach your destination with tiny steps. You just need to make it easy and get started. The law of least effort. When you look at the world map, you will easily notice that different continents are different shapes. At first glance, this observation seems rather obvious and unimportant, but it turns out to have a profound impact on human behavior. Let's look deeper. The primary axis of the Americas run from north to south. The landmass of North America and South America tends to be tall and thin rather than wide and fat. Meanwhile, the landmass that makes up Europe, Asia, and the Middle East is the exact opposite. This massive stretch of land tends to be more east-west in shape. So how does this make any difference? Locations along the same latitude generally share climates, amounts of sunlight and rainfall, and changes in seasons. As a result, agriculture spreads 2 to 3 times faster across Asia and Europe than it did up and down the Americas. Because of similar weather patterns, farmers from Europe and Asia could domesticate a few crops and grow them along the entire stretch of land from France to China. Now, when you travel to Florida from Canada, the weather changes completely. You may have the best farming equipment, but it won't help you grow Florida oranges in the Canadian weather. The spread of agriculture provides an example of the third law of behavior change on a global scale. It is that we tend to do easy things that involve less friction. So if you want to start a new habit, make it extremely easy to get started with. The idea is to remove obstacles and friction that stop you from taking action in the way you want. Want to draw more? Put your pencils, pens, notebooks, and drawing tools on top of your desk within easy reach. Want to exercise? Set out your workout clothes, shoes, gym bag, and water bottle ahead of time. The starting point of any habit should be as easy as it can be done in less than 2 minutes. Decisive moments and the 2-minute rule. For James Clear, each evening there's a tiny moment, usually around 5:15 p.m., that shapes the rest of his night. That's the moment when him and his wife walks in the door from work. Next, they can either change into their workout clothes and head to the gym, or crash onto the couch, order Indian food, and watch The Office. The moment they change into gym clothes, they know the workout will happen. Everything that follows, driving to the gym, deciding what exercises to do, stepping under the bar, is very easy once that first step has been taken. It pays to create a first step that is super convenient and easy. Habits are the entry point, not the end point. They begin by changing into gym clothes and not exercising. The moment you choose between driving your car or riding your bike. The moment you decide between starting your homework or grabbing the controller. These decisive moments determine your momentum for the next several hours. We often keep watching a boring movie or keep eating when we are full. The initial decisions lead to the subsequent actions. When starting a new habit, it's common to get excited and overdo it. While starting to run, many people tend to overdo it and end up straining their muscles. Eventually, the initial excitement takes a dip, and a constant running habit is never built. To counter this tendency to overdo, James gives a 2-minute rule of habit formation. It says, when you start a habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. You'll find that nearly any habit can be scaled down into a 2-minute version. If you want to do 30 minutes of yoga, start with taking out the yoga mat. And if you want to save $1,000, spend 2 minutes looking for an online savings account. Start small and keep building on top of your atomic habits. Make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. In the 1830s, Victor Hugo, the prolific French writer, was facing an incredibly tight deadline. 12 months earlier, he had promised his publisher a new book, but instead of writing, he spent that year entertaining guests and delaying his work. Frustrated, Hugo's publisher set a deadline less than 6 months away. The book had to be finished by February of 1831. Being a writer, Hugo had a creative plan to meet this fast approaching deadline. He collected all of his clothes and asked an assistant to lock them away in a large chest. When he was left with nothing to wear except a large shawl, lacking any suitable clothes to go outside, he remained in his study and wrote furiously during the fall and winter of 1830. The Hunchback of Notre Dame was published on January 14th, 1831. 2 weeks before the deadline. Sometimes success is less about making good habits easy and more about making bad habits hard. This is an inversion of the third law of behavior change. Make bad habits difficult. The technique adopted by Hugo to stop procrastinating is called a commitment device. It is a way to lock in future behavior, bind you to good habits, and restrict you from bad ones. So if you're going out but want to ensure you don't indulge in fast food, keep your cards at home and carry limited cash. Or if you want to get in shape, schedule a yoga session and pay in advance. You have already spent your money and committed. So when it's time to attend the session, you are more likely to show up. You can also automate your good habits by making them inevitable. Want to save more? Sign up for an automatic savings transfer. Want to be more productive? Block social media sites with a website blocker. Want to eat healthy? Subscribe to a grocery delivery plan for grocery shopping. The fewer decisions you need to make about a habit, the higher the likelihood that you will end up doing it. The fourth law, make it satisfying. In the late 1990s, a public health worker named Stephen Luby left his hometown to live in Karachi, Pakistan. He quickly realized that Karachi was one of the least livable cities in the world. At that time, over 60% of the residents lived in squatter settlements and slums. The unsanitary conditions led to widespread illness and diseases like diarrhea, vomiting, and abdominal pain. Luby and his team realized that in an environment with poor sanitation, the simple habit of washing your hands could make a real difference. They also discovered that many people were already aware that hand washing was important. The problem was not knowledge. The problem was consistency. Hand washing was not one of their automatic tasks. That was when Luby and his team partnered with Procter & Gamble to supply the neighborhood with Safeguard soap, which foamed easily and smelled great. It made their experience of hand washing more satisfying. Within months, the researchers saw a rapid shift in the health of children in the neighborhood. The rate of diarrhea fell by 52%, pneumonia by 48%, and impetigo, a bacterial skin infection, by 35%. We are more likely to repeat a behavior when the experience is satisfying. Conversely, if an experience is not satisfying, we have little reason to repeat it. The cardinal rule of behavior change is that what is rewarded is repeated, what is punished is avoided. The first three laws of behavior change, make it obvious, make it attractive, and make it easy, increase the odds that a behavior will be performed this time. The fourth law of behavior change, make it satisfying, increases the odds that a behavior will be repeated next time. It becomes the habit loop. How to keep your habits on track. At the age of 20, Benjamin Franklin carried around a small booklet everywhere. He went and used it to track 13 personal virtues. This list included goals like lose no time, be always employed in something useful, and avoid trifling conversation. At the end of each day, Franklin would open his booklet and record his progress. Jerry Seinfeld reportedly used a habit tracker to stick with his streak of writing jokes. In the documentary Comedian, he explains that his goal is to simply never break the chain of writing jokes every day. In other words, he is not focused on how good or bad a particular joke or how inspired he feels. He is simply focused on showing up and adding to his streak. The best way to keep your habits on track is to not break them. Do not break the chain of workouts and you'll get fit faster than you expected. Don't break the chain of writing blog posts every day and you will end up with an impressive blog. Don't break the chain of saving and investing and you will achieve financial freedom sooner than expected. But no matter how consistent you are with your habits, it is inevitable that life will interrupt you at some point. An emergency can pop up, you may get sick, or you have to travel for work, or your family needs you. So what happens if you break this streak once? Whatever happens, remind yourself of a simple rule. Never miss twice. When a habit goes off track, recover quickly. Faltering is the first mistake, but it is a bigger mistake to get carried away and not correct it. It's still okay to miss a workout for a day. Don't repeat it twice. It's still okay to miss eating a healthy lunch, but make sure you avoid junk food at dinner. It's still okay if you overspent this week and couldn't save as much as you wanted. Compensate for it next week. You can't be perfect, but you can avoid a second lapse. Michael Phelps, one of the greatest athletes in history, won more Olympic medals not only than any other swimmer, but also more than any other Olympian in any sport. El Guerrouj is a Moroccan runner who holds 2 Olympic gold medals and is one of the greatest middle distance runners of all time. These two athletes are wildly different in many ways, but most notably, they differ significantly in height. Guerrouj is 5 feet 9 inches tall. Phelps is 6 feet 4 inches tall. Despite the 7-inch difference in height, the two men are identical in one respect. Michael Phelps and Hikam El Guerrouj wear the same length inseam on their pants. How is this possible? Phelps has relatively short legs for his height and a very long torso, the perfect build for swimming. El Guerrouj has incredibly long legs and a short upper body, an ideal frame for distance running. Now imagine if these world-class athletes were to switch sports. Would they be as successful as they were in their original sport? The secret to maximizing your odds of success, therefore, is to choose the right field of competition. Like Michael Phelps in the pool or El Guerrouj on the track, You want to play a game where the odds are in your favor. The people at the top of any competitive field are not only well trained, but they are also well suited to the task. And this is why, if you want to be truly great, selecting the right place to focus on is crucial. The Goldilocks rule. Once the right field is chosen, the next step is to achieve mastery of it. To achieve mastery, you need a bit of a challenge. Imagine playing a tennis match against a 4-year-old. You will quickly become bored because it's too easy and you will win every point. In contrast, if you play a professional tennis player like Roger Federer or Serena Williams, you will quickly lose motivation because the match is too difficult. Now consider playing tennis against someone who is your equal. As the game progresses, you will win points and you will lose points. You will have a good chance of winning, but only if you really try. Your focus narrows, distractions fade away, and you will find yourself fully invested in the task at hand. This is a challenge of just managing difficulty, and it is the prime example of the Goldilocks rule. The rule says that we experience peak motivation when working on tasks that are right on the edge of our current abilities. Not too hard, not too easy, just right. Build atomic habits, challenge yourself to achieve mastery, and practice deliberately to improve continuously. Moreover, remain flexible. While working on your habits, building an identity is required. But when your identity restricts you, be flexible to allow growth to take place. So if the identity "I am an athlete" restricts your focus to just physical workouts, make it more flexible and say, "I'm the type of person who is disciplined, reliable, and great on a team." This is a creative way to remain flexible while not allowing your identity to restrict your growth. Remember these lines from Tao Te Ching. Men are born soft and supple. Dead they are stiff and hard. Plants are born tender and plant. Dead they are bitter and dry. The hard and stiff will be broken. The soft and supple will prevail. If this sparked your interest, take a look at our other video. It is Think and Grow Rich, where we build upon concepts in this book to create better financial habits for your future.